And the last topic relates to clearinghouse overconfidence. So we know that clearinghouse is utilized by exchanges in order to standardize products, provide counterparty credit risk protection, that is, do the process of margining, keep collateral so that the members, if case they default, the margin money can be used to settle the obligations. So the key advantages of a clearinghouse in the respect of derivatives are first standardization and improved price transparency. So due to the opaqueness of the financial markets, an infrequent trader can end up overpaying for an asset in comparison to a frequent trader who has more knowledge because he is not aware of the prices. So by making the pricing public with standardized products and reporting trades regularly, the clearinghouse provides infrequent traders with better information. So it promotes informational efficiency in the markets. Very importantly, it centralizes counterparty risk. So financial trades are usually open-ended trades where a trader's obligation varies with market prices until maturity. Especially in a derivatives contract, your long or short position may come more in the money or come more out of the money depending on the ending price of the asset or the underlying at the end of the day. To reduce the risk of insolvency, traders post collateral. So centralized clearing puts the task on the clearinghouse of assessing both the deal's market value and the counterparty's credit quality to determine the correct collateral requirement. It provides the regulators with a more accurate view of the market and the participants and the current transactions in the market. It centralizes collateral collection, that is, it makes trading cheaper and safer as the clearinghouse requires collateral only equivalent to cover the potential trade obligation. So a clearinghouse will generally see the historical volatility and see what can be the potential loss in one day and ask you to put up so much margin so that if that loss happens and you decide to run away, the counterparty or the central clearinghouse still has enough money. However, it will not require you to put extra money. If it is needed, then the next day the exchange will ask for, or the clearinghouse will ask for more collateral if your trade has gone more out of the money during the day. So it makes trading cheaper and safer. So enough collateral is asked for, but no extra collateral is also needed. So it promotes efficiency, it promotes liquidity and good trading. It mutualizes risk. So the members of the clearinghouse initially post some capital to become members of the clearinghouse. So this becomes a guarantee fund for traders, spreading the risk of potential trading failure amongst all the members of the exchange or all the members of the clearinghouse. It provides, or it assists in a very important phenomenon of netting. It enables counterparties with multiple derivative contracts to net their obligations. Traders will benefit as the net obligations will typically be lower than the gross obligations as a result of having both profitable and unprofitable positions with several different counterparts. So netting aids in quick trade settlement, which can avoid slow payments, lawsuits, bankruptcies, etc. So although we already understand netting, we'll understand it once again. So assume that there are three firms X, Y and Z. Firm Y owes firm X $5 million. Firm X owes Z another $5 million. Suppose X gets into financial trouble. In a normal scenario, it will obtain the money from Y and will use it to pay all its creditors, firm Z being one of them. This scenario makes an example of a contagion. So clearinghouse would take over all these transactions before firm X gets into financial trouble and take $5 million from company Y and direct it to firm Z instead of passing it through firm X. This way, even if one domino, firm X, fails, all other do not. That is, the contagion doesn't spread to Z and other firms in the line. So Y owed X, X owed Z, X got in trouble. If Y paid X, X would use it to settle other obligations and would probably not pay Y or not pay Z. So the central counterparty can direct the Y to pay directly to Z, so that even if one domino in the financial system, one bank, one institution, one counterparty fails, all others don't fail, because otherwise Z would also fail, and again potential creditors of Z could be the other people in trouble. Assume there are 3 firms owing each other 50 million. Now suppose each firm needs to receive payment prior to paying its other obligation. These trades cannot be easily closed out promptly. So P owes Q, Q owes R, R owes P. If there is no clearing house, all these trades have to go through, because Q can't pay until it receives, R can't pay until R receives, P can't pay until P receives from R. So this will delay the whole clearing out of the system. But if there is a clearing house, then it provides certainty and thus simultaneously manages these multilateral obligations, balancing the claims and assets. So it can tell that, okay, nobody has to pay anyone anything because the trades have been or the trades are complementing and has been settled by the clearing house. So the netting is another advantage that the clearing house provides. So we see that a clearing house can marginally reduce systematic risk due to the following reasons. So first, it cannot eliminate the targeted loss from the economy and thus unable to contain the systematic risk of financial contagion from an uncollateralized counterparty's failure. Regulators and legislators need a clearing house so that some institutions are not allowed to fail due to the extent of their systemic connections. However, their presence may result in default becoming more acceptable and therefore more frequent. Clearinghouse is defenseless against other potent challenges of systematic risk beyond the failure of one vital standalone financial institution. So we studied that these are some things that the clearinghouse can do to prevent systemic risk. So in this case, firm X was not allowed to cause a contagion. However, if X, let's assume, has other obligations, fine, you took the money from Y and gave it to Z. Otherwise, X would have paid its other creditors. So now these other creditors will probably come in default because X has not paid them. You took the money from Y and gave it to Z. So the clearinghouse can help this Y to Z phenomena, but it cannot help against preventing a systemic risk that X would have caused to its other creditors. So if any big institution or big counterparty fails, the central counterparty can have only a limited role in informing the regulators and in doing whatever it can so as to best divert the risk from one place to another. However, on the whole, the systemic risk will remain because firm X has defaulted or has gone bankrupt for whatever reason. So the following things is what a clearinghouse cannot do. That is, eliminate the risk with collateral collection. Clearinghouse collects the collateral using a formula. This raises the exposure of firms conducting non-clearinghouse transactions with clearinghouse member firms, as collateral kept with the clearinghouse is not able or is not available to the other creditors of the firm. So if the firm has given a lot of collateral to the clearinghouse, then it may increase risk to the other counterparties because a part of the assets have been blocked with the clearinghouse. So even though the clearinghouse has reduced systemic risk for the firms trading within its own system, so the firms A, B, C that are linked with the clearinghouse, this whole ecosystem has lesser systemic risk because of this CC. But of course, because collateral is locked up with the central clearinghouse, if B and C are trading with other counterparties, then the risk with the other counterparties or with these other institutions increases because the total assets are the same. So remember, the central clearinghouse does not eliminate total systematic risk, or it cannot reduce total systematic risk. It can reduce the systemic risk within its own universe. However, then it will make the other universe more risky because the assets are locked in with the central counterparty. So overall systematic risk, the central counterparty is unable to reduce unless you're assuming all trades are happening only through the central counterparty or only through central counterparties, which is not the case because many trades are happening bilaterally as well or outside the central counterparty. It cannot reduce risks with a complex set-off. So in a complex set-off, a creditor can set off a debt it owes to a company with a payment due from a firm. However, if one of the parties is bankrupt, it does not actually reduce the loss. Instead of the set-off redistributes the losses. So doing so with the clearing house would lead to the same result, and it is unclear whether basic risk transfer can halt systematic risk. So again, this is the same thing, the XYZ, that example that we just studied. So X owes to Y, Y owes to Z, Y is in default, X can directly transfer to Z. This set-off can happen, but Y will still be exposed to the other counterparties that he has been dealing with, who he will not be able to pay because he is bankrupt. So it cannot alter systematic risk. It can only redistribute the risk. So Z is in less risk and these people are in more risk, but the system as a whole is still risky. As far as risk transfer is concerned, we would like to mention the Miller-Modglani irrelevance proposition that says that the clearinghouse set-off analysis is parallel to the debt equity concept. So they illustrated that the firm's operation determines its risk level, not the debt equity structure. So the same way we argue that the clearinghouse is incapable of reducing or eliminating the systematic risk. Instead, the clearinghouse provides risk transfer to other non-clearinghouse creditors. So all the clearinghouse does is that the risk goes away from Z, who is a member of the clearinghouse, to all the other creditors who are not a member of this clearinghouse. So it transfers the risk to other non-clearinghouse creditors, as we have been explaining in the previous examples. Clearinghouses themselves are becoming too big to fail. That is, due to the trillions of dollars flowing through the system, clearinghouses are likely to become too big to fail institutions themselves. So that is, the weakness or failure of a clearinghouse himself will be a source of systematic danger, and probably governments will have to step in if there is a default at the clearinghouse level or if there is some fraud at the clearinghouse level. The clearinghouses in general, we've studied in the first review or in the earlier review, have a lower probability of failure than the constituent financial institutions because of the margin deposits and all the checks and balances that are in place as the basic responsibility of the clearinghouse. What are the shortcomings of a clearinghouse finally? First, collateral given to the clearinghouse is not available to other trading partners. Risk transfer to vital outside institutions often offsets the counterparty risk reduction that we studied, that other non-clearing house creditors will get additional risk. Mutualization benefits are offset by the potential to funnel distinct moderate level risks into a concentrated area, resulting in substantial systemic danger. So we said that mutualization is a benefit, that is, all participants put in some money into a default fund, that is the central counterparty, and there is a default fund, and that is the mutualization that we studied. But what is essentially is doing is that is increasing the risk. Now all the money which was earlier distributed has been concentrated in this one institution, and if the central clearinghouse defaults, then all this money is defaulted. So substantial systemic danger can be presented if the clearinghouse defaults, although we have cited mutualization as a benefit earlier. Clearinghouse solvency depends on a successful capital call from an unstable member. Thus, transparency in ensuring completed trades can become panic driving opacity. So if the clearinghouse knows, or if the clearinghouse makes one capital call because this counterparty is in loss, so he has to put a variation margin, and then he is unable to put a variation margin. That means this counterparty is in default. So because this process is so transparent now, because there is a clearinghouse, everybody immediately knows about it. If everybody knows that one person is transparent, then everybody will start shorting or will start taking one side of the trade because one big institution is in loss. So it can drive panic in the market, and this transparency, which was supposed to benefit everybody, can then result in everybody taking one side of the trade and can drive or can just evaporate liquidity in the market. Due to slowed settling of other non-clearinghouse transactions, speed in settling some transactions may be partly offset. So your system may be very efficient, but your system often may be dependent on money coming from other systems. So you can't settle this trade until and unless you get money from another trade which is outside this central clearinghouse universe. So due to slowed settling of other trades outside the non-clearinghouse or the non-clearinghouse trades or trades outside this clearinghouse universe can potentially affect the speeds within the clearinghouse system as well, because money flow is dependent from those outside trades before trades within the system can be settled. So these are some shortcomings of the clearinghouse system, although on the whole we explained in the beginning that the margining and the transparency and the credit guarantees that the central counterparty provides will generally enhance liquidity, transparency, and trading quality and trading confidence in the markets. That is why in the post-crisis world, a lot more transactions are being routed through clearing houses than otherwise. But there are some shortcomings, some enhanced systemic risks, so we have to be very, very careful about the management of these central clearing parties or clearing houses themselves. So that's about the review of the current issues in financial markets. Thanks a lot, and see you next time. All the best for the exam.